Hi everybody. I am at one of my favorite places. It is interesting to be back at this place in August because August of 2020, I came to this river. This is the Toccoa River in Mineral Bluff, Georgia. I found a journal from Steve and it gave me instructions of what I should do when he passes to heal. And it said to go to a river house and write and just sort of process what's next for me. And I remember thinking, yeah, let's do it. And I just did a quick Google search of rivers in the Georgia mountains. I found a house for rent and rented it for the first week of August. And while here, I remember saying, wow, I feel really at home here. I feel really at peace. I wrote a lot of words I had been avoiding to write because they hurt, and did a lot of processing, a lot of dreaming, a lot of being able to see I was going to be okay. And I got home from the river, and then 2 days after, I found out my in-laws needed to sell the house that Steve and I were living in because their retirement was against it. And I remember panicking, but also full speed ahead, moving towards 2 months after that, buying a house with my friend in Mineral Bluff, Georgia, where I'm at right now. And so, the world works in a very, very funny, mysterious, yet magical way. And if you are paying attention and you are putting things out there, keeping faith, and taking actions, things can happen for you. And I'm at this river currently because somebody is viewing my house to hopefully buy. I've already talked to the river about it. So we'll see if she works her same magic, because it was a full moon the first week of August that I was here, and I was like, if I'm supposed to live here, will you please help me figure out how? And now we're in August and I'm back at the river, and I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to live here anymore. Can you please help me figure out how? So, here we are, full circle moment. And so speaking of travel, that was my first trip out of being home all the time to take care of Steve, coming to the river. And it was a pretty significant trip, even though it was only 2 hours from my house, just because I hadn't been anywhere. And it was very empowering. It was very life-changing. It was very incredibly healing. After moving up here, I didn't really have any intentions on traveling because mostly I had to figure out what is next. What am I doing with my future now? What is my purpose? And Erica actually recommended me to go on a vacation, and she said, if I send you somewhere, will you go? And I was very anxious because I hadn't been anywhere, and especially because she wanted to send me out of the country. But I've always dreamed of going to Costa Rica, and I said, you know what? Yes. And she is a very generous human that has sent me to a lot of places and has sent a lot of people to a lot of places, and she's just very kind with her earnings because she understands the way in which travel can change and heal people's lives. And so she sent me to Costa Rica. My first time going out of the country by myself. This isn't my first solo trip, but my first solo trip since Steve had passed, and I couldn't speak Spanish, and there were so many elements of it that were, but I did it scared anyways, because I've been used to doing a lot of things scared anyways. So I went on this trip, and it was the most empowering, life-changing experience of my life. There were a few times where I felt a little in over my head in terms of language, but between technology that we live in and where you can access translators and kindness of people, I was able to get through, and I was really empowered by that trip. And I remember sitting on the beach doing a journaling session and saying, I want to be able to give this to everybody who's had a similar experience that I have. Like somehow, some way, I want that to happen. And yes, I'm still working towards that. But I just went on another solo trip, and the number one comment outside of, oh, Italy looks good on you, because, travel looks good on people. When you're really absorbed in the moment and just feeling so thankful for the way in which your mind is expanding and you're feeling heart opening, and you just are really immersed in the culture and you feel it changing you in good ways and beautiful ways. It's beautiful to see. But the other number one comment was, how are you traveling alone? Like, I need to understand how you're brave enough to do this. And so confidence is something that I ended up having to work on immensely after I lost Steve. I was a very confident caregiver, but then there was a lot of things about caregiving that broke me, and mostly because it made me meet all of my shadows and all of my quote-unquote monsters that I didn't even really know existed. And then I had to come to terms with being a whole person again and saying, I had, moments of weakness while being a caregiver, but that doesn't define who I am. Just as I had moments of being like an absolute saint angel while being a caregiver, and that doesn't define who I am. What really defines who I am is how I embody both, and the practices I do in order to stay into the light, and understanding that as a human being, we all have the capacity for the monsters to come out, and it is a responsibility of ours to own that, and then to do the work to stay in the light. And just because we have that capability doesn't make us bad. And so there was a lot of healing that needed to be done. But then in terms of confidence of myself out into the world, when Steve first died, I had anxiety about being around people. I couldn't tell whose energy I was feeling when I would be out. I would feel panicky. And there was so much that I needed to gain in confidence in terms of my ability to navigate whatever the world was going to bring me. And, then going back to work, starting completely over as a therapist, there was so much confidence I had to build in myself then. And thankfully, I had already had a year off between Steve's passing and me going back to work to build a lot of the confidence back in my ability to manage my stuff. I had already learned how to manage my panic attacks, and I'd already worked on healing a lot of my shame and my, I worked a lot on the grief and the residual resentments, and I felt incredibly proud of myself because I actually allowed myself to sit in those moments of growth and say, wow, I really was able to put in the work and the time and the effort and get to the other side to where I feel healed and complete and ready to help other people. And I think we all just like go, 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 and we forget that we actually have to pause in these moments and look back and say, oh, I've come so far. I did that. I put the work in to get here. And that's one of the ways in which you build your confidence, is to actually stop and look back and say, wow, that was really scary, and I did it anyways. And then I learned a lot from myself in the process. And then thankfully I had a wonderful supervisor for the 2.5 years I was working at my job, and I was able to build my confidence by coming and talking to her about the way I would help clients, client feedback actually, and just the way in which I felt at ease in my body when I'm sitting and holding space for people. It just feels so natural. It feels so who I am. I feel so completely confident in my ability to navigate whatever it is my clients are bringing to me. And I also feel confident that if somebody is not going to be best helped by me, then I'm going to know that, and I'm going to be able to find them someone else to help them properly. And so confidence is one of the things that has led me to be able to travel on my own, because I know, there's going to be some things that happen, like breaking my phone and language barriers and travel with train and airplanes, and like the way in which they don't always line up. And, as a female, you have to be on guard, and not in an anxious way, but you just have to be very aware of your surroundings. There was several times where I noticed men were following me. And so I'd break out my phone and I'd start to video them, and I'd say, are you following me, in plain English, knowing very well they could understand me. Then suddenly they're like, I can't speak English. And I'm like, and, I was usually very aware of if I was in a small alley or if there was somebody around to help me. And then, I did open up and allow people to have access to me in certain ways that I wouldn't allow others, because I trusted their energy and I trusted myself to be able to determine if this person's good or bad for me. And that's also something that comes with confidence and trusting your intuition. And a confident woman knows when the energy is telling you, this is a good person, or stay far away from me. And this is something that I work on with all of my clients that work with me in any capacity, whether it's like as a caregiving or in anxiety or just in processing traumas or just dealing with the day-to-day. It's being confident in yourself is one of the most important qualities that can help carry you through all of the many things that life brings you. And so, yes, this is kind of a plug for you to sign up with me, whether you want therapy or coaching. Just remember, they are different, but both are just as effective to help with especially confidence. It's one of the biggest things that I try to do with everyone that I work with. Even if you're just my friend or I've met you on the street, empowering people is my jam. And that's because now that I feel embodied in my empowered, confident self, I know that I can make the world a better place. I know that I can see more of the world because I feel confident in my ability to navigate it. I know that I can help a lot of people heal because I know how much I've worked on healing and how much it's worked and how much I'm now able to confidently go out and do that for others. And if we could all be living in that space, we wouldn't be having such a divide. We wouldn't be competing against each other because we would all know that when we are living in our power, there is enough opportunity and space for all of us. And when we're not coming from a place of hurt, then we understand that really we are beings of love. And when we come from that in like a confident way, we're not worried that everyone's coming to hurt us. Because when we're confident, we can tell who's friend and who's foe. It's one of the most important things I ever learned in my life was to understand the energies of people and to know the difference between what is anxiety and what is your intuition. And that comes with practice. That comes with every time something comes up saying, okay, I'm going to bring my awareness to this and I'm going to allow the event to unfold and teach me. And then paying very close attention, was that anxiety or was that your intuition? And the more you actually slow down to pay attention and bring your awareness to things, the more that you're allowing yourself to see just how aware of the world you can be, just how in tune you can be. And yeah, I want to bring that for everybody because traveling alone is a beautiful experience. It's such a beautiful experience. When you can be content and happy in your own energy, the whole world's open for you because you're not coming from a place of lack and seeking someone just because you don't want to be alone. And that's when you're going to find your right people because you know that you're so content in your own energy, you're so at peace in your own life. You also know your abilities and that you're going to be able to provide for yourself and you're going to be able to find opportunities and you're going to be able to handle the challenges that the world brings because it does. And you're going to be able to soak up the joy and the delight that the world brings in between because it also does that. Because once you're paying attention and you're really living in awareness, you realize, yeah, you have to pay attention to the hard stuff, but you also have to pay attention to the good stuff because the good stuff is sprinkled in between everywhere. And that's how you fuel yourself to get through the hard stuff. That's how you have the energy. That's how you build yourself up. And so one of the biggest things I can just beg of you, it's beyond being able to give advice on a YouTube video, but something that's really important is to just pause after you do things that are really hard and allow yourself to really sit in. I did that. Take note of the ways in which you are already showing up well in the world. Your focus shouldn't always be on, I need to grow, I need to heal, I need to do this. Like, what are you already doing? Where are you already showing up? Because that's really, really, really going to be important for you to be able to continue to show up. And, once you get to these places, revel in it. Enjoy it. You've worked really hard to get here. You deserve to be here. And I am so here for all of you who are desperately seeking to find this place. Respond to this video, send me an email, go to my website. I will put all of those here. Any way you want to get in touch with me, I am here to help, and I'm confident that I can. I think we all deserve to feel confident in our bodies, in our beings, in our lives, in our abilities, and hopeful about that, meaning us being capable of handling whatever is coming. Because it's all happening all the time. And I'm ready for it, and I want you to be as well. Okay,